Alrighty, hello and welcome. This is BP Productions, where we share lives, share stories, and encourage others. I am your host, Bruce Isaac Pineda, and it is a great day today. I am super excited because this is episode number 1 of 7 of my podcast that I've decided to do. It's been a long time running, but I'm really excited to first off get it going. And I've tried this a few times, but here we are, and we're gonna do it today. So, yeah. So let's just quick announcement. It'll be available on YouTube, not quite any other podcast platforms yet, just because I'm still figuring out the technical side of that. But without further ado, I am here, and I'm going to introduce my guest, which is Angel Ibarra.
Hey, how's it going, Bruce?
What's up, Angel? So Angel is very close to me. He is my brother-in-law and my sister's husband. He has 2 kids and is currently working as an order selector at Pepsi Company. So yeah, I've known Angel for a very long time now. It's been about, Shannon said, I think 11 years.
It's 11 years.
11 years. So, basically I met him, I'm 23 right now. So what is that? I was
12? No.
That can't be.
You're 23. It's been 11 years.
23, yeah.
Yeah, when you were 12 years old.
12 years old. See, that's a long time running. So anyways, yeah, 12 years old.
You're making me feel old.
Dang. Jeez. All right. So yeah, just so the guests can know you a little bit, Angel. Just kind of tell us about yourself. What? Obviously, you're married to my sister. Let's start off with that. How did you and Shannon even meet?
High school. I'm gonna say we were together in the same class in first period, biology class. Actually, the worst subject I hated the most. Just because I thought I didn't really care about science. There's no other way I was going to learn about it out in real life besides that's a tree, and trees need air and need light, you know what I mean, and water. So that's really about it. But when I saw her, it was kind of like, oh wow, she's beautiful. And then later on, during that whole year, it was always trying to talk to her and get to know her, and she just brushed me off every single time. Yeah. So your sister wasn't really wanting to talk to me at all. Yeah.
So what was it about Shannon that, I'm just curious, what was it about Shannon that drew you near to her?
Okay, obviously she's beautiful. Let's get that out of it. But the fact that in high school, without sounding like such an elitist or misogynistic, if you will, but she was the one girl that didn't chase me back. So it was kind of like she was playing hard to get. And the more I couldn't have her, the more I wanted her. So it was always that chase with her. I still even get it to this day, no matter what. Even if I want kind of like affection or emotion, she makes me work for it. She makes me feel like it's not just because we've been together for so long that I just get these things. I have to work for them. That
makes sense. And so you guys, obviously, you met and eventually Shannon gave in and said yes to dating you?
Yeah, like 9 months. No. Just about maybe 9 months. I know the whole school year went through, but she didn't start talking to me about 9 months later, probably, like actually talking to me. But even then, it was just a hello, how are you doing? How's your morning? Yeah. And she wasn't very reluctant to answer any of my questions. She just was put on the spot by me. So
yeah, that's awesome. And then so obviously you guys started dating, and then you guys got closer, and you guys had babies.
Yes. Yeah. So I believe Scarlett was born when I was 20 years old. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we had kids. We have another one on the way. So that's another thing that I think our family's kind of done growing after this one. So yeah, that's awesome. That's it. Just 3.
That's right. Congratulations on that, by the way.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
That's awesome. You think it's a boy or girl?
It's gonna be a boy. I hope.
For sure.
Pray to God, it's gonna be a boy.
That's cool. All right. So you said you were an order selector, correct?
Correct.
So what is that?
Well, a lot of it has to do with just companies purchasing through PepsiCo, and then from there we fulfill those orders, sending them over, Walmart, H-E-B, and some other local shops here in San Antonio. We actually deliver to as well. We pick them, and the semi drivers go and take them to their locations. So.
Okay. How long you been there?
8 months now, I think now.
8 months?
About 8 months now.
Yeah.
I just made company last month. So.
Yeah. So that was one of my topics that I wanted to touch on. So for me, obviously, I didn't go to college, right? So right after high school, I Had a really good job, Interstate Batteries.
Right.
I was making good money, able to afford an apartment, buy a car. I was fine. Um, and at the time, I really didn't know what to do right after high school. I kind of just was focused on, I have a good job. I'm kind of set, which probably wasn't the best thinking at the time, but I just didn't know what I was going to go to college for. Um, so for you, Angel, when once you graduated high school, what was your game plan? I mean, what was your thought process? Were you thinking about going to college? Did you have a certain thing you wanted to pursue, or was it just up in the air at that?
To be honest, I had no clue. Even at that age, I think I was 19 when we graduated. Yeah, I think I was 19, 19 or 20. No, I was 19. I was 19 when we graduated, and I had no idea what I was going to do.
Mm-hmm.
All I knew is that you guys were moving up to Washington, and it was one of those decisions that did I want to move with you all or did I not? It's kind of like, did I want to, at that time, what, 19, so 4 years went by.
Yeah.
I was dating your sister, and it was one of those decisions. Do you let it all go or do you just continue?
Mm-hmm.
And do you just make the move? And I'm just like yourself. I'm a big mama's boy. I really am. I love my mother to death. And I don't. And at that time, it was hard for me to let go.
Yeah, of course.
So I just knew in one way or another, me and your sister had a what I consider a cosmic connection. She'll laugh at it, and she might think I'm being a little too like not emotional about it, but I emphasize it so much because look at where we are today.
Yeah.
So when after we graduated high school, I really thought I can't leave. I can't let her leave,
Mm-hmm.
but I can't make her stay either. So I gotta go.
Yeah.
And after high school, I don't know what I was gonna do as far as college or as my job. All I knew is that I was working, and that was it. I mean, I wanted to go to school, but I never knew of what. I'm in the same place as you were. I had no idea what I was gonna do.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just kind of let things kind of sway me,
Uh-huh.
motion in the ocean. I just move it. I move with it. I don't move against it anymore. There's
Yeah.
no point.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I get that. Just to touch base on coming back to you were 19 years old. Your girlfriend, the love of your life was moving to a whole nother state, and not just, from Texas to New Mexico, Texas
Right.
to, somewhere close by. It was all the way in Washington,
28 hours away.
Yeah, other side of the United States. And so not only as, a mama's boy, not only as a man leaving his mother, but like, what was the thought process on, hey mom, I'm leaving to go follow this girl because I love her and I'm just gonna go?
You see, there wasn't any kind of thought process. Actually, I think I really did my mom a very disservice.
Mm-hmm.
Because the way I did it was I talked to her about it, and she really didn't tell me anything. I came up as a, hey, mom, she's moving. What are your thought process? She never said to go. That's one thing that I still remember clearly. My mom never said to go. My mom never said to stay either.
Mm-hmm.
But she knew when I would leave, I was on my own.
Yeah.
And it was a big adjustment, but to go back to what my mom or like how we dealt with that situation, there wasn't really one way for me to say it. I didn't know how to say it. I was so torn between going and staying. That whole song, should I stay or should I go? Yeah, so I was really torn. I'm my mom's oldest son.
Mm-hmm.
I think really I'm my mom's best friend.
Yeah, I understand that.
She really understands me, but I understand her. Like, I've seen every single dark thing to see in our childhood, as far as our family events and stuff like that. I've seen it all. I've heard it all.
Yeah.
And maybe it's probably because I took too much on as a child, and I was put a little too much responsibility. But a lot of it, when it was time to tell her that I was gonna go, I actually waited till like the last 2 days.
Until you actually made that final decision.
Yeah,
Or
because it came down to the night, actually.
Yeah.
It came down to one night. Are you going or are you staying, is what your sister told me.
Yeah.
And I was torn. I was torn from head to toe, and I didn't know. I had no idea what I was gonna do. I had no idea what kind of plunge I was gonna get myself into.
Yeah.
But at a certain point, did I want to leave my family behind, or did I want to take a chance on this cosmic connection I claim to have?
Yeah.
And I did it. I stuck to that cosmic connection, and I wasn't gonna let it go. I don't know. Nothing in me told me it was a bad choice.
Yeah.
It was an act of faith, and I'm glad I took it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I guess to jump into more of that, like, so just so the audience knows, I kind of did the same thing, but in a totally different way.
Yeah, let's go on that one.
Okay, so basically, I was in love with this girl that was my best friend.
That's probably the first time I've actually heard you say that.
Okay, and although I knew I probably shouldn't have just jumped and moved. So just to give backtrack. So yeah, we were in Washington State, and loved my best friend. I ended up moving back to Texas because all our family had moved back.
Right.
And then at what, like 18, probably the same age as you did.
Yeah.
I decided to do the same thing and move to Washington because I thought that I could be with this girl, and I thought that she would return the feelings.
Right.
That didn't pan out. So I guess the moral of that, obviously you wouldn't recommend someone doing that. I mean, just coming from a man's perspective, you know, someone came up to you and said, "Hey, I really like this girl, and I really think I have a future with her." I mean, what would be your advice on that? Obviously, maybe they even are dating. Would you go ahead?
Well, that's a perfectly valid option. That if you could go with somebody and try it out, I don't see no harm in it. But in reality, what harm is it doing to you, depending on your situation? I say go for it, because what are we if we don't go fall head over heels for somebody?
Very true.
I do remember this though, when you were going, and I asked you, "Hey, are you sure that the feelings that you have are being reciprocated, or is she giving you the same back, right?"
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, "I think so." I don't blame you for going, but I think the difference is that I kind of knew deep down if it was gonna work out or not.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you felt that same way, like if it was gonna work out, or if you felt something pulling you. That's what I felt, something pulling me. And you took the plunge, and although she was a sweet girl, I already knew who she was by just her voice, the way she talked, and I kind of knew it, and I knew what you were looking for. It didn't mash up well.
Yeah.
And for advice about that certain scenario, me and you did the same thing. Yeah, one worked out and one didn't, but a lot of the times, I mean, you gotta try, right?
Yeah, for sure.
If you don't give your whole heart out, then are you really in for it the long haul, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think Shannon, which is my sister, obviously, your wife, she told me if I ever regretted that, and no, I don't, because I learned a lot. There's a lot of sleepless nights and heartbreaks,
Right.
but I learned a lot.
And I think that's the thing, is that I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're good.
But I do see that we have to leave at a certain point to be on our own. We got to be able to make those decisions by ourselves and learn the consequences and deal with them.
Yeah, for
so
sure.
I really do think that I think you've grown as a different person, because just to give the audience a little bit more perspective on me and Bruce, we weren't actually friends.
You know what? I was gonna bring that up. I was gonna bring that up. Yeah, when Angel moved to Washington, we didn't get along
At all, man. We really didn't. We were water and oil.
Yeah, we just had very different opinions,
Beliefs.
and I think, at least I can speak for myself, every time we talked, I think I can confess that my point of view was I was trying to be right. I wasn't trying to teach, I was trying to be right.
Right. Yeah, and I think mine was more of, I'm going to show you you're wrong a lot of the time, instead of turning the other cheek and just let you go on
Yeah.
with your whatever kind of belief system we were going at it with each other. But yeah, me and Bruce, guys, we're totally two different people.
Yeah.
We've done the same things, and it's crazy that after a couple years, actually after Washington and after you left, and then you came back, I think you kind of saw the world the way I see it,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't more in a nice light, but I think what you saw was the black and white and the gray areas that I normally see in now.
Yeah.
You know, I knew what kind of, excuse me.
No, you're good.
I know
Uh-huh.
a lot of it had to do with your narrow mindedness on certain things.
Okay.
But when you were out there, I think you
Yeah,
really opened up a lot.
I get that. Yeah, I understand that. Yeah. Obviously it takes two to tango. So I think when I moved back, we definitely both opened up to each other, and especially, having been with Shannon that long,
Right.
having my nieces, that definitely brought us more together as a family.
Right.
And me and Shannon were actually talking about it. Now me and you share a lot of the same opinions,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
weird.
And you see, and
Uh huh.
even when that time when we were butting heads, now I've come to understand where you come from
Uh huh.
as far as accepting, faith in Christ and kind of asking more in God Himself,
Yeah.
So I think I I've changed a lot from the last time when we were in Washington,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, we were pretty bad.
Pretty
We
bad.
were
Yeah.
pretty bad because I remember those times we would talk for hours and it was just arguing. It was never
Yeah.
understanding. It was just arguing all the time.
Yeah. We're just nitpicking and
Yeah.
trying to prove yourself
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. So my next question, how do you, and it's a totally different topic, but just to break it down, obviously as men, as at the age we're at, even when you're older, I guess, you having your family, you not only having Shannon, but my nieces, and then another one on the way. How do you manage stress? And that's a question I like to ask people. How do you manage stress? Because I think everybody manages it a different way, and some people can manage it really well,
Yeah.
and some people you can show that they can't manage
Right,
stress
and they
really
start
well.
breaking down, and yeah, no, you know what? To be very honest with you, I don't stress. I
Mm-hmm.
really don't. Whether it's a good or a bad thing, I really don't stress. However, there's some life stress moments that I do have. However, Shannon will tell you, I don't plan things out. I
Mm-hmm.
just go with the flow. If there's a plan for the day, I know how to get to that plan, but
Okay.
it becomes a zigzag.
Yeah.
There's no, we're doing this and we're going to go straight to it. That doesn't happen in the real world. Things just come up. And so the way I've learned to deal with stress is actually when I was a child.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like I said before, I've seen a lot of things in my family and I know where we were at financially as a child.
Yeah.
So money was always a big stress factor in our family.
Uh-huh.
So I guess it's the way I looked at my mom, where she said, if you can't fix it, if you have no power to fix it, then you shouldn't be stressing over. If it's something that you cannot physically, mentally, or even obtainably fix it, then there's no point to worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
You just write it out, you let God take care of it, and just let it go.
Yeah.
So that's how I view that kind of stress. We are let me mute this real quick.
You're good.
We are at a point in time where we're actually, there you go.
You're good.
We're actually at a
Uh-huh.
point in time where I'm trying to buy a house,
Uh-huh.
and I've actually haven't been sleeping very well. I've been going to bed about 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning
Yeah.
because I'm just making sure I give my family something that I wish I had when I was a child.
Yeah.
As we go over, we ended up getting a house, but
Mm-hmm.
I think my inner self in me wants that to happen. So I've been stressing about that lately.
Yeah.
But other than that, whether it's payments, bills, I don't worry about it until I have no other choice to worry about it.
Yeah.
So if my back's not against the wall, and it's just being a nuisance, I'll let it be right there. I don't care. It doesn't
Yeah.
bother me. It doesn't have no effect on me. Because if I let it affect me, I stress Shannon out. I might take it out on my kids and yell at them. And
Yeah.
there's no point. There's absolutely no point to let that kind of stress that I can't fix affect my family.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
I just let it roll off my back. I really do.
Yeah.
So I don't know. how people deal with it who can't handle stress, because sometimes, man,
Uh-huh.
some of it gets pretty hectic.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've seen a lot of people. That anger builds up, that stress builds up, and they just lash out and destroy their families. But one thing is that obviously we live together, right?
Right.
We've lived together, and yeah, that's one thing I can say. Even living here in San Antonio, I never saw you lash out. You and Shannon would obviously fight, but
Right.
you would, hunker down and you wouldn't lash out, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah, and she'll
uh-huh.
tell you that. I've gotten mad. You've seen me get
Yeah,
mad, but it's never for bills or anything. It's
yeah,
just always some dumb stuff we're fighting
yeah.
about, and that's honestly not even worth it. But
Uh-huh.
a lot of the times, yeah, I've never really lashed out just because there's no point to. There's no need to feel a fire
Mm-hmm.
if it's already a little lit.
Yeah.
Just leave it alone.
For sure. So you said your mom, taught you a lot. Your mom was, pretty much a hero, if I can say your hero, right,
Yo,
growing up.
100% my hero.
So your dad wasn't in the picture, correct?
Correct.
How do you think that affected you,
Mm,
if it did at all?
so not having a dad, typical Mexican family at this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
But not to put stereotypes in there. But yeah, not having a dad, I think it changes your perspective a lot. Like I said, I had to learn a lot of the adult world at a very, very young age.
Yeah.
Um, I forget what the actual right term for this is, but it's a key latch kid,
Uh-huh.
and it just meant I have the key to our place. And at that time, I was 6, 7 years old. When we would walk home,
Yeah.
um, I actually had to have my brother and my sister. My sister being like 11 months apart from me, and my younger brother at the time was 3 years younger than me.
Okay.
And I'd have to go and walk them home. And if you really think about it, young kids walking home, we're talking about maybe 4 or 5 blocks away from our house, from
Yeah.
our apartment, anyways. And I remember always hearing from my mom, "Don't let anything happen to your brother and sister.
Yeah.
I'll never, I'll never let you let it go if you're careless with your siblings."
Mm-hmm.
And since a very young age, I've learned to. I guess that's why I know how to deal with stress, is because as a kid, I had nothing but stress.
Yeah.
Um, Making them something to eat when they were hungry. Um, I even had to tell my mom at a certain point, I'm like, "Am I allowed to hit them?" Because they're not listening to
Yeah.
me. And yeah, she gave me the green light. Like, yeah, hit them.
Yeah.
And make sure they listen, because you're doing it. And it was never to do it because I had authority over them. I just did it just because, like, hey, I'm in charge of you guys. I don't want to get hit, so
Yeah.
you're gonna make sure you're doing your job, because
Yeah.
it's a trickle down effect at this point.
Uh-huh.
So not having a dad, I think it really impacted to the point where I didn't know who I was supposed to be. I never thought, I'd even be applying for a house.
Yeah.
I didn't think I was gonna make it there,
Yeah.
to be honest with you. So not having a dad, not having any kind of leadership, I always viewed my mom as that hero, as
Yeah.
that father figure. And for a long time, I would give my mom, Happy Father's Day cards and stuff like that, because
Mm-hmm.
she carried me. She carried our whole family on her back. And when I see like other kids that have a dad, it was very weird for me to know their interactions.
Uh-huh.
So I guess I think that's why, like, household dynamics, the father makes money, goes out and does dad things, right?
Yeah.
But the mom is the head of the household as far as what happens um, at home,
Uh-huh.
and I learned to kind of actually let that go into my own relationship, where Shannon kind of has a lot of say in what happens, as far as, like, where we go on vacations and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
how the house is supposed to look like. She takes care of all that. Um,
But
but
you're still.
but yeah,
Yeah, you're
yeah,
still the head.
I'm
Yeah,
still
I
the
get you.
head
I get you.
household from it. But that's
Yeah.
only like
Uh-huh.
actually like
I get what you're saying.
house things. Like
Yeah.
if we need to move, like when we moved back
Yeah.
to El Paso.
Yeah.
But that's kind of how it affected me, as far as not knowing who I was, not knowing what I was supposed to be. How was I supposed to break away from what I guess you could say what my last name comes from, as far as
Yeah.
like where my family line
Hmm.
is. And a lot of it was very conflicting, very very conflicting. I just don't know. I didn't know at that time who was Angel. You know,
Hmm.
all I knew is I was in charge of two other kids,
Yeah.
helping my mom and seeing her through her worst times if possible. And I just wish somebody would have taken care of her. I think that's what I hoped for and I wished for and I prayed for as a child.
Yeah.
So now that having my own kids, it's so different. I don't know how I don't know how to be a dad. I'm
Uh-huh.
literally learning as I go, and
Yeah.
I don't have a role model or anything.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes, yeah, I can be a little strict, and sometimes I can be a little aggressive and stubborn.
Yeah. Yeah.
But a lot of it had to do with me not knowing anything, to just like, hey, this is what my mom did. But my mom had a different scenario of taking care of three kids and her being by herself, rather than me
Uh-huh.
sharing some of that responsibility with my partner.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
And
how did you do? I mean,
uh-huh.
you had a father up to a certain point, and then he wasn't around. He was still around.
Yeah.
He called you and whatnot. But how did that
Yeah.
affect you?
I mean, obviously for me, just going back to it, my dad worked in a different state. My parents worked together for a little bit, but he still worked in a different place. So he
Right.
wasn't, physically there. I did have the contact with him and he would visit from time to time. But it broke my heart every time he left. And he knows that. Uh, but as far as how much it affected me, I, I, I do believe it affected me to a certain degree, but not to the point where I felt any resentment or anger towards my dad.
Mm,
I knew that there was problems with my mom and dad, issues between them,
right.
but I always felt like my dad was just a phone call away. Um,
That's nice.
and he was. But yeah, it did hurt me when I would go to my friend's house and their dads would be there. Their
And just
dad
to see it,
just to see it,
Yeah.
going to football games and their dads are there to watch them and my dad's somewhere else. That
Yeah.
that hurt. Um,
Yeah, it
so I
hits
guess
even
I
more.
ask you that too. Do you have resentment or did you have any anger toward your dad
Oh,
at one point, or do you still do?
100%. No, you know what? I don't anymore. I accepted what had happened.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's a lot of questions that I have for my mom about like what happened,
Yeah.
what was going on, but I think I choose not to know it because I think there's a darker side, and I really don't want to find out those answers. But what I have um, learned and talked to, because I actually I, there's been a couple times where I've actually talked to him,
Uh huh.
um, and he somewhat kind of opened a vein a little bit and kind of like shared with me like what had happened or what was going on, where he was at.
Yeah.
And for the longest time, Bruce, I had nothing but hatred in my heart. I really did. I really did. I saw the world is just black and white, and it was very hard for me to overcome not being wanted, I
Uh
guess.
huh.
But it wasn't never the case for that. I think my dad did want me. However, in his own, messed up way,
Mm-hmm.
he just couldn't show it anymore. He couldn't be a part of it. And yeah, I'm not angry anymore. I let it go.
Yeah.
I had a cry a
That's.
little like 2 3 years ago
Uh
maybe,
huh.
and I just let that go. I I wrote him a message saying, hey, like what happened? Why? Why'd you leave me? Why'd you leave us? Like we
Yeah.
struggled for a long time, and he just wasn't in the right place.
For sure.
So yeah, for a lot of time, a lot of my bitterness came from that, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
I'm still I'm still damaged, I guess you could say, for for a little
Uh
while,
huh.
just because a lot of it has to do with me being a dad now.
Yeah.
My number one thing that I don't understand is that at what point did my dad feel like he couldn't be a part of the family
Yeah,
anymore?
I was gonna say you're probably seeing it like, you spending time with your family, you spending time with the girls, Shannon,
Right.
You're probably thinking to yourself, like, how could my dad not want this?
Yeah, yeah, and with Scarlett, it hits me a lot more because I look at Scarlett like I was that little
And that's your
kid.
oldest?
Yeah, and that's my
Yeah.
oldest, you know, and if she's my oldest and I'm my dad's oldest, and I look at my daughter like I couldn't, I couldn't pull myself away, and I don't get it. I don't. It would take an act of God to pull me away. It would take me to be actually ripped away from here.
Yeah.
Because there's no other way I could let my little girl go. I couldn't. So seeing Scarlett, she's she's the she's the little kid version of me that was supposed to have a dad.
Yeah.
So getting to see that, sometimes it brings me to tears because a little while ago, right when she started school, the book fair was coming around. She comes home and she shows me the little flyer of the book fair.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I'm gonna try not to get emotional here, but she showed me the flyer and she's like, Dad, I want a book. Growing up, we never could afford it ever, and it was so irritating and so infuriating.
Yeah.
That we couldn't ever afford it, and me and my siblings, we would pretend to be sick on certain days, and that happened. That we had to go to the class and go walk as a class and go look in there. And I hated seeing all the kids get books. Couldn't afford books.
Yeah.
That's the crazy part. Like I couldn't afford the Pokemon book I ever wanted, and when she brought that home to me, I just started crying.
Yeah.
Because that's something I could do for her. And I called my mom. You see, I'm even getting choked up. I called my mom and I was like, Mom, I'm going to give her money because I can now. And
that's awesome.
My mom hits me with, make sure you send her with a little extra to buy that kid that she sees that can't afford it. And it got to me. It got to me, man.
That's awesome.
So when my kids do stuff like that, and I remember being a kid, it's like, damn, Dad, like how?
Yeah.
How could you? But I think it made me better. It made me open
better.
up a little bit. You know, and it's crazy because this all revolves around Shannon. If I saw the world in black and white, she was the color.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, I like that.
She was the color.
Yeah.
And I don't think I could have been able to grow as a person without her.
Okay.
So, a lot on you, babe. I love you.
There you go. So, you know, obviously, okay, you said you didn't have that anger no more. You, didn't resent your father no more. You forgave him, right?
Right. Yeah.
You've recently, correct me if I'm wrong, but you've gotten closer to God, correct?
Yeah. It's crazy, actually. And
do you feel like that resentment, that anger that you had with your father kind of affected your relationship with God? Because sometimes God is God the Father, and sometimes there's a connection there where with your earthly father, if you don't have that connection with him, it's kind of hard to see God the Father as good.
Right. You know what, I get that a lot. Actually, but for me, I don't think I had any resentment to God. Not about my father, but it was actually brought down by money. Why didn't we have money? Why were we poor? Why couldn't we afford things? Why couldn't we live a different life? That's why I didn't understand. So at an early age, I asked my mom, like, I want to know more about God. Where does God play in all this in my life? That I deserved this. You know, why did I have to be fatherless? Why did my mom have to struggle? Why did my mom have to literally work herself almost to the brink of hospitalization just so she can put food on the table and clothes in her bag to give us a different life? Why did she have to do all that? And not to mention, all the stuff my family had to go through. Because if I was the broken one and I knew my dad the longest, how are my siblings going to deal with that? So I had a lot of questions, and my mom tried to find me the answers. She tried talking to me in her own way about God. My grandmother, she's a Catholic. She tried to talk to me about God. And nothing was really sticking to me until she brought the Mormons from Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And they came over, and I was not in awe of them, but I was in awe of what they spoke about God. And that's kind of where I started learning. But I don't think I resented God for being the father, as you were saying. I think I just resented God sometimes during the time where money was an issue.
Yeah.
And it was an issue all the time. So I asked why.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Why are people born in such privileged ways? Why can't we have a break? Why? And I never asked, like, who am I supposed to become?
Yeah.
So
for sure. And so another thing is that there's a lot of kids that are going through what you went through right now. There's a lot of kids that are angry at their life, angry at their father. Sometimes they go to drugs. Sometimes they go to escape, drinking, pornography, whatever it is, right? Just to get away from their situation. And what advice would you give them to cope with that? To know that even though you came from a hard family or hard upbringing, that everything's going to be okay? Or would you even promise that? Or, I mean, that's a loaded question, I know, but...
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't promise anything would be ever okay. Like I said, a lot of things happen for a reason, and I'm only here because of how strong my mom is. That's it. And you bring up a good point. I could have been just like my dad, a drug addict, an alcoholic, just a really bad delinquent, because I would have grown up to be that same person had it not been for her. So my advice, I really hope you have a good mom, because damn, I don't know how I would have done it, to be honest, Bruce. I really don't.
Yeah.
She was my anchor. If I was going to be a problem, she fixed it real quick.
Yeah.
And I'll give you a little story as to it. I started stepping out of line when I was younger, and I told my mom I could take her in a fist fight. And to just give the audience a actual background on my mom's an old school chola.
I was going to say, you mess with that mom strength.
Yeah.
They grow this certain amount of strength. When they become a mom, they just grow this super Hulk strength.
Right.
Yeah.
But on top of that, she was like a thug from back in the day. So
yeah,
when I tried to step to her, she put me in line real quick. And she, mom strength and all, grabbed me by my shirt, pinned me up against the wall and said, do something. And I was scared. But never again did I ever challenge my mom like that, ever again.
Yeah.
But you see, she was my scared straight moment. She was my, you're going to follow what I say, because I don't want you to end up like that. So advice, find an anchor. Find somebody who has your best interest.
I love that.
Find someone who has your best interest at heart, and just go with it. There's no point of fighting it. They're doing it because they love you.
I like that. Yeah, I think it's super important to have someone to talk to in those moments. Someone you could trust. Someone has your best interest in view when you talk to them. Just to say, Angel, obviously we pretty much, you knew me since I was a teenager, right? But I've grown to know you. I respect you. I think you're a good man. I think you take care of my sisters real well. My sister and my sisters too, real well.
Well, then too, they didn't like to be spoiled sometimes when I go get them stuff. But
my nieces, there's not a moment where I am afraid for my sister or my nieces, because I know that you got them.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Get all emotional here, Angel. Because
thank you.
You know how important my family is to me. I think you saw that in Washington. I will do anything to protect them.
Yeah.
And to make sure they're in good hands. That's the most important thing. So, we're coming to the end here, but it's another loaded question I'm going to throw at you. And I think pretty much you explained it through the video, but what makes life worth it when you're in that bed and after a long night of work, after a long day before, you're tired, your bones are aching? What makes you say, I got to get up and I got to live?
You know what? And man, it's crazy that you say it like that, because we go back to my faith, right? And I didn't think I was going to talk about God so much in this first episode, but I want to say that I heard something, and I don't remember who said this, but they said, if you were to die tomorrow, and you went over and you talked to God or you talked to Christ, and He shows you your book, right, the book of life where you lived, and it said you were supposed to be a doctor, that you were a doctor, a policeman, or an artist, or a musician, or a football player, and you tell Christ, that's not me, and He looks to you and says, that's what you were supposed to be. Why didn't you use all your gifts that I gave you? What do you say to that?
Yeah.
So I wake up every day, not only because I have a family, but because I have a purpose somehow. I gotta do stuff that I gotta live up to, you know. And that's what I do. That's how I get up. And you know, having a family is a whole different ballgame.
Yeah,
too. I'll give you that. That's something that gets me up because I have to go to work every day. I have to. I don't care if my hands hurt right now.
I was to say,
my hands hurt right now, and I worked through it last night, and you know, it'll be okay. I'll go to work on Monday. It might be a little pain, but
you're good.
I'm good, man.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And that's how I get going.
Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. Well, all right. I'm gonna do my last set of questions here.
Okay.
It's called the hot seat questions.
Oh God.
So you're gonna answer either yes or no as fast as you can. Perfect. Don't really think about it much. Just answer quickly. All right.
I'm already hot, anyways.
Ready? First question. Do you drink coffee?
Yes.
Have you ever stolen something?
Yes.
Do you believe in God?
Yes.
Is America the greatest country?
Yes.
Do you like Donald Trump?
No.
No?
No.
Amazing. Wow. I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, no.
Did you have fun?
100%. I had a blast and I love this.
Yeah.
I do.
That's awesome. All right. So I'll give you an opportunity, Angel, if you want to do any plugs, anything like that, any socials, I know you're a gamer. Oh, yeah. I know that, you know, you love to game, and we didn't even talk about it, guys, but Angel's a really good artist.
I wouldn't put it that way, guys.
What? You draw. You're an artist.
No. I draw, but I don't classify myself an artist. An artist is somebody who can be like, hey, you know, draw me this, and they draw it up. I'm, however, in the basics, but I appreciate the fact that you call me an artist. But I'm learning how to draw. Okay. So that's awesome. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Any plugs? Any last words?
Not at all. I enjoyed this. This is great.
Yeah.
Maybe we have many more, and we can talk about my gaming habits and maybe some interesting topics that require about being a man.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Cool. Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you for being on, Angel.
I appreciate it, man.
This one we're here. Guys, thank you for checking this out. This is episode number 1 of 7 of the interview podcast. My goal is a 7 because that's just a good number. And again, we are here in San Antonio, Texas. I don't know if I said that in the beginning, but we are here. It is hot. It is warm. But we're getting this, and we're pulling it through. So anyways, thank you for joining. And we will see you next time. I love you guys. My socials, Bruce.Pineda, BRUCE.PINEDA on Instagram. And you can also look that up on YouTube. That's where this will be posted. Again, this is BP Productions. And thank you for joining. Goodbye.